Can you withdraw from your Registered Retirement Savings Plan, or RRSP, even if you're not retired? Is that actually possible? Well, in Canada, yeah, we actually can. I don't know what you've heard from maybe somewhere else like the United States, where there might be penalties or things like that that might come into play, but you actually can. So in this video, I'm going to explain what happens when you withdraw from your RRSP. Hi, I'm Evan. I'm a certified financial planner, and every day I help Canadians just like you invest smarter, reduce their taxes, and have a better understanding of how their RRSP works. First, let's look at a scenario where you might need some access to money, but you just have money invested inside of an RRSP. First thing you need to do is sell the investment that's inside there, and you can do that depending on whether you're at a brokerage or you work with an advisor, something like that. If it's invested in, say, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, something like that, you need to sell it first so that you have cash inside your RRSP. So now that you have cash inside your RRSP, you can make a request to withdraw some money to your bank account. But before you can do that, some taxes have to be paid in advance. This is called withholding taxes. Before I get into the exact amounts of withholding taxes applicable to you, let me explain this concept a little bit more. Withholding tax is not a separate tax, and it's not a penalty. It's just a prepayment of taxes that you're likely to owe on that withdrawal anyways. This is the same kind of thing that what happens when you earn an income. So when you earn money at work, your employer deducts some taxes and sends it to CRA in advance for you. That's kind of like a withholding tax as well. The same thing happens here with an RSP or a RIF. And a RIF, again, is just the second half of what an RSP actually is when you end up taking money out of it on a regular basis. But even if you wanted to take money out of your RSP, withholding taxes still apply. So here on the screen, I'm going to show you the exact amounts that you'll have to pay depending on how much you withdraw from your RRSP. For any amounts up to $5,000, you'll have to pay 10% withholding tax. On amounts $5,000 and over and up to and including $15,000, you pay 20%. And anything above 15 grand, you pay 30% withholding tax. So because this is just a prepayment of taxes that you're likely to owe on that withdrawal, this amount might be too much or it might be not enough. And all of that depends on how much other income you have. Deductions and credits will also come into play here to determine how much tax you'll end up owing. And then once you file your taxes, you'll be able to see how much income you have, what your deductions were, any credits that you might have, and then how much taxes you've already paid to determine whether your withholding taxes on this RSP withdrawal were either too much or not enough. So now when that money moves from your RSP to your bank account, that's a taxable event. And so whenever you withdraw that money from your RSP, whether you're young, old, you're working, retired, it doesn't matter, it's all taxable. And so that means that every dollar in the gross amount, so the amount before the withholding taxes, that amount is included in your taxable income for that year. So like I mentioned before, the amount of tax you're going to pay at the end of the day is actually based on how much income you have from all sources and the amount coming from each individual source, because some things like interest, dividends, capital gains, they're all taxed differently. So if you're needing a bit of a refresher on how the Canadian tax system works, you can check out this video over here. So paying taxes on an RSP withdrawal, it isn't a penalty. It can feel like it. It can feel not very much fun. No one wants to pay taxes, but that money is going to be paid, or that tax is going to be paid whether you like it or not. Whether you're retired, you can pay it then, you can pay it now. It doesn't really matter. So the taxes that you owe aren't a penalty for withdrawing from your RSP, even though you might think it or it might feel like a penalty. That being said, for people who are still in their working years, adding additional income from an RSP withdrawal might mean that you're actually going to pay more taxes on that withdrawal than you would if you were to withdraw it typically as part of your retirement income stream. And that's because retirees in Canada just pay less tax on average for a variety of reasons, but that's a topic for another video. So now that you've made your RSP withdrawal, at the end of the year, you can expect your financial institution to send you something called a T4 RSP. That is your tax slip that shows how much you withdrew from your RSP and how much tax was withheld at the source already. So that's it. Here's a few more things that you should keep in mind when you're withdrawing from an RSP. The first thing is something that I kind of mentioned already, but it's that tax situation. The main idea with an RSP is that you want to contribute when you're in a high tax bracket and withdraw when you're in a lower tax bracket. If you're in your years where you would typically have a higher tax rate, meaning your benefit of contributing is really high, that means the cost of withdrawing is probably higher than you would want it to be anyways. So making an RSP withdrawal during your earning years is not going to be optimal. The second thing to keep in mind is that when you make an RSP withdrawal, that contribution room is gone forever. So unlike a TFSA where anything you withdraw you can put back in the next calendar year, in your RSP you cannot make a new contribution unless you have additional contribution room either from a previous year or you earn more in a future year. Third thing to keep in mind is that there are two other ways that you can actually withdraw from your RSP depending on what the purpose is. So the first one is using the home buyer's plan, and the second one is the lifelong learning plan if you're planning to go to a post-secondary education program as an adult. So these are ways that you can withdraw from your RSP without paying that withholding tax up front. Then you can use that money for either buying a first home or for paying for an education program for yourself or a spouse, and then you have to actually pay that money back into your RSP over the next few years. I'm not going to go into the details of those programs, but just know that that is possible. So if you are planning on making an RSP withdrawal for the purpose of buying a home or for going to a post-secondary education program, then those options are available to you, and the previous explanation of withholding taxes won't apply. Finally, the last thing that I'll mention here is that if you are planning to use your RSP as part of your retirement income strategy, first converting your RSP to a RIF, a registered retirement income fund, might be an optimal way to do that. There's a few reasons why, but the big one is that you can split your income after age 65 if you have a spouse or a common law partner. If you want to learn more ways to use your RSP and some optimal ways to use your RSP savings as part of your retirement income stream, hit subscribe so you can get all the future videos from this channel, and you can check out my podcast, The Canadian Money Roadmap, where I've gone into many details about these strategies in the past already. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in another video.